Welcome back to the podcast. I'm your co-host, Kelly McKeague, and with me today on After the Buzzer is my boy Boog. Say what's up to the pod, Boog.
What's up?
It's been a minute I heard this jam.
I couldn't remember what jam was coming on.
It's been a very, very long time. We were doing the other one for such a long time. We finally get to talk some now NBA basketball, because if you've been following our summer series, we did record those kind of prior to Jared going on vacation, going and getting engaged. For the third time, we got to talk about it because it's the third time we're talking about it on the podcast. Congratulations again for that.
Thank you.
Jared is finally back from his vacation, so we're here to talk some NBA basketball. We know it's been a minute. We basically missed the entire finals and the end of the. Oh no, we got to.
No, we got to it.
Yeah. So we missed basically the entire NBA finals, but we're here to finally talk about it, catch up, talk about that, and talk about some of the stuff that did happen around the NBA in the last couple of weeks, because there were some major transactions going down in the last week. Or 2 weeks or so.
2 weeks.
But anyway, before we get into that, we have to give a shout out to our partners over at W Energy. Fantastic tasting energy. All of the energy you need to get through your day. You head on over to W.GG or use the W Energy app in our promo code, which is Poi N Soy, POINSOY, for 10% off your order. Boog, let's talk some NBA basketball.
Woo. Yes.
It's been a minute since I got to say that.
I actually got to watch a lot of the games too, so it's kind of nice.
I thought it's great. I was like I said, I figured you kind of caught up with it. I wasn't sure what the time difference was going to be, so that's why I think it was like 12 hours basically from
Hawaii
here to you. Yeah. That's why I was like, that's pretty nuts. But anyway, so actually, first and foremost, how was your vacation? How you feeling? How was it? I feel like you look good. We feel like you look relaxed. You know what I mean?
I'm a lot less stressed. No.
That too. You also did the thing, so you got to be a lot less freaked out right now.
That was basically halfway through the trip. So the first half was nice. It was just nice to get away. I mean, I don't remember the last long vacation I took that didn't include like coaching and whatnot.
That's a good. Yeah. It's so funny because I just realized I always think like, oh man. Like the kind gets to go on these trips, but I was like, yeah, I mean, you are coaching, so it's probably more stressful than it is, party time. You know what I mean?
Like coaching and then playing. So like, there's one of the two. This was like a true vacation. So we spent like 5-6 days in Switzerland. Then we went to Paris for 2 days. We went to Paris Disneyland. We went to see all the sites. Then we went to London for a couple of days, and then we went up to the wedding for a couple of days. And so it was pretty spread, pretty quick. A lot of walking, a lot of sightseeing. I took like almost 1,800 photos. Like it was wild.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know next time I'm gonna go to Europe, so I might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah, that's like. I mean, I figured your vacation was pretty long, pretty jam packed, because you were up there for a good minute. I was thinking in my head, I was like, man, he's gonna be heading to so many different places in that time that he's up there for.
So I'm still in good shape, because we got a lot of walking in, the food's a little different. It's not as there's a lot of like Americanized food, but then we tried to eat all the like the cultural stuff as well. And then the Disneyland thing
my parents they're like always like, the food is okay.
Yeah.
I mean, for them to go from Japan to Europe.
We traveled with her dad, and because he's born and raised in Japan, right? And then he comes over and he still makes like the healthy stuff and the non-oily stuff, the salty stuff, and he's like, everywhere we went, he was like, oh, it's salty, it's oily, like I don't like, it's heavy. I was like, I mean, but it's tough because like when you're so used to it, like even for us, there was a couple places where like, oh, it is like tough to find food, but we found a lot of Asian places.
Oh.
Yeah, we ate a lot. It's surprising. Like we ate, we ate Japanese, we ate Thai, we ate Chinese one day. Like there's a lot of little different like shops and that we found, whether it was at the train stations or restaurants that were around the area. So it was good.
That's pretty good. I was like, well, sounds like it was a good time. Glad to have you back.
Successful trip. That's what we put it that
been
way.
A minute since we got to talk about some NBA basketball. Like more, I know it seems like we've been talking about it for the last few weeks over and over again because we have 3 pods dropping a week regarding basketball. But for me, it's been like 2.5 weeks or so just, without my boy to
absolutely
record.
Nothing.
I was like, so I haven't been recording really anything. But anyway, we're here to talk some NBA final stuff, but we'll get to that in just a minute. First and foremost, let's talk about some of the trades that happened around the league. So June 15th, the Magic made a blockbuster trade for Desmond Bane, giving up Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Cole Anthony, the number 16 pick, swap rights for the first round pick in 2026, the 2028 first round pick, a 2029 first round pick swap, and a 2030 first round pick. Boog, first and foremost, your reaction to the Orlando Magic getting Desmond Bane. And then on the flip side of this, the fact that the Memphis Grizzlies were able to squeeze out basically 5 first round picks from the Orlando Magic in this trade.
I mean, that's just wild that they were able to get the 5 first round picks. We'll put it that way. Because, I mean, as much as we were talking about Desmond Bane, and we thought that was going to be the hardest piece for Memphis to offload. He was A, the first piece that they offloaded. Yep. And B, they got great value for Desmond Bane in that regard. Yep. So it's like that to me, when that trade dropped, I was just like, man, what is going on? And why am I not home right now to talk about this? Like,
really, right?
But I mean, and there's the players that we said that we should go somewhere and do something. I mean, they got KCP there, and then like that's one of the biggest pieces for me, at least. The KCP going there, being that difference maker, the veteran, like, 3-and-D.
I'd like to put on the record, this episode hasn't dropped yet. You're going to hear it in a couple of weeks. I called at least part of this trade.
Yes, you did.
I was like, literally, the players that I included in the trade are in this trade. They're just missing the third part of the trade, which, ironically, rumor has it that there is still a possibility that something like that could happen. Apparently, the Nuggets are looking to reacquire Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Whether it becomes a part of this 3-team trade and they kind of add it to it later, or it just ends up being one of those things that they do once the whole recently traded designation gets taken off of KCP.
Yeah.
Still a chance that the Denver Nuggets go and get back the guy who helped them win a championship, a couple years back. So,
no, 100%. I mean,
if that happens, I 100% predicted everything.
Yeah.
Which would be wild, but still. Anyway, sorry. Continue on. Yeah.
That is.
Do you like the fit of
so
Desmond Bane in Orlando? Like, do you think that he's the guy that can kind of take them to the next level?
I still don't know. Like, because I have my ups and downs about Desmond Bane. Like, maybe it'll just be nice to see him have a different running mate other than Ja. Yeah. I mean, and then you think about it too, like the Paulo Banchero kind of thing. Like,
Franz Wagner,
different fit. So with that being said, because there is a different fit there, it might be different chemistry and a different little bit tweaked role in what he's normally used to. So he might be a lot more efficient and consistent in those regards.
And he seemingly have to do less in this team. You know what I mean?
Because you're bringing into a team that's already kind of established, and they had good runs, they have good chemistry, they have a good core floor plan, and now they're just adding to it. So
they just need a little more offense when offensive punch when the team is kind of struggling, which is ironic because I feel like their whole team is basically offense. But I mean, it is a little bit of a odd thing. The other thing I was going to say is I find it so rumor came out like not too long after the trade was official that the Orlando Magic actually offered a trade to the Chicago Bulls for Kobe White originally, and it was Kobe White to the Orlando Magic for Jonathan Isaac, Cole Anthony, and 2 first-round picks. And I must say, I find that a little insulting that they gave up 5 for Desmond Bane, but only gave up 2 for Kobe White, considering Kobe White had a much better year than Desmond Bane last year. He's younger.
He's making
on a smaller contract.
Yes, that's the one.
I find that kind of, so a lot of people in the Bulls realm were kind of like upset, and I'm like, I'm not, because if they gave up 5 for Desmond Bane, they should have given up 5 for Kobe White, because in my opinion, he's younger and is still ascending. Like, whereas Desmond Bane, that's a $35 million guy you got there. So in my head, I'm like, that's kind of insulting that they didn't offer more. So I'm glad they didn't take the deal. It would have been kind of nice, I guess, because there is still a situation with Kobe that they're trying to figure out, and re-signing Josh Giddey and all that. But I just find it so insulting that they went and offered 5 picks for Desmond Bane, who's essentially a similar guy, but was also less efficient last year. So I don't know, just like that to me was a little messed up. I was just like, well, thank goodness the Bulls didn't pull the trigger on that one. Anyway, we'll get into I guess on the flip side of this, what are your thoughts on the Memphis Grizzlies bringing in a veteran in KCP, bringing in Cole Anthony, who will seemingly be their backup point guard, for a squad that's we've kind of pointed to it before. They've been kind of vocal about them now not trying to move off of Jaren Jackson Jr. or John Morant. Supposedly, they're trying to work on an extension with Jaren Jackson Jr. right now. You know, they have Zach Edey. They have guys like Jalen Wells and Gigi Jackson who are, you know, kind of still growing. Like, do you like the addition of KCP? Do you think it's sort of leading to possibly a later move down the road?
I mean, I like how you talk about that later move because I mean, it's kind of foreshadowing, and it might happen because they want to go get somebody who knows, an MPJ or somebody like that.
I think MPJ would be great.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. And you bring back
I think
KCP.
a swap of KCP and MPJ would just be just the chef's kiss move. I mean, I know I called that already, but
Yeah.
in like now seeing it come to fruition, it's like it just makes so much sense. You bring
Especially
back
with what they have there, right?
yeah, exact. And not only that, but like in that specific version of the trade where they get, I mean, MPJ is making a good amount of money where like the Nuggets could ask for a couple of players. You know what I mean? Like it could be KCP, maybe Brandon Clark, and like you know, just somebody else to add to the bench rotation, like Scottie Pippen Jr. or you know what I mean? Like anybody that like that team has a lot of like young, small contracts that could also help increase the depth for a Nuggets team. Like to me, it just makes so much sense. I don't know why they haven't already made the move. It just seems like, you know, now we're just kind of waiting until
that recently trade tag gets taken off, and then they can do something about it.
Yeah, like literally, I think that's the only part of this that they're waiting on.
But I like it. I mean, like for the time being, at least, KCP's, you know, what he gives to the team, what he brings out, he's going to be a very locker room guy. He's going to be a very veteran voice. He's been around the league. He's won championships around the league. Like he's there. And I think that's what they need. They need a different voice who's been there basically now.
Yeah.
And then once that happens, then maybe he stays in for half a season and trades out. They make that MPJ KCP swap right around that time. He gave his input, gave that veteran leadership, and then all of a sudden you bring in that Michael Porter Jr. who got to play for the Nuggets, which is a championship caliber team, and they're young, kind of fits more of a timeline, and it'll help that succession of the next 3 to 5 years grow as long as they can make this Jaren Jackson extension signing. I think that's one of the biggest things.
I think the other sort of significant part of this trade that is kind of overlooked, well, besides the fact that they have a ton of future draft picks, is that now they have 2 draft picks in this draft in the first round, if I'm not mistaken. Hold on, let me double check that, fact check that. I know they have pick 16 from this trade. Do they
48 and 57?
Oh, they don't even have a first round pick. Okay, so
no,
actually even better. So they traded into the first round so they could finally have a first round pick this year. Looking around that 16 mark, I mean, there's a ton of guys that could be had in that range, whether it be like an Igor Demin or it be like a Will Riley. There's like a lot of random players that could kind of fit, whether, you know, it's shooting or it's defense or it's, you know, another big man or, you know, something else that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Ton of guys to be looking at in this position. I think that's great that they've got a draft pick that'll help them like now, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Especially in the draft that is considered to be pretty heavy or pretty deep. So I'd be very excited to see what the Memphis Grizzlies do. I think this was a fantastic trade for them. I said this
for
summer
them, they 100% won.
They needed to get rid of Desmond Bane. I mean, and I think Desmond Bane is, you know, a good match in Orlando, but I also think getting 5 first-round picks, like any of those guys, like if it had been him, Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant, like 5 first-round picks is great value. And on top of that, 2 solid role players, like, I don't know what the Magic were thinking. Like, I get it. These are probably going to be late-round picks or whatever, but it's still, like, 5 is a lot. So, anyway, there was another smaller trade. We're not really going to talk about that one, but Indiana did trade their 2020 or did trade for a 2026 first round pick and gave up their 2025 first round pick, which was number 23 this year, as well as draft rights to guard Mojave King to the New Orleans Pelicans. Not a lot to talk about there. You know, we'll get to the Pacers in a second because obviously they're in the finals. And then the next big one happened on June 22nd. Kevin Durant got traded to the Houston Rockets. This one was another one that I feel like we predicted. I'm like 96% sure that this was one of the ones we
We were
threw out
talking
there.
about here, yeah. Like this was a better, and it
'Cause
was
I
for
think
it was for the Dylan Brooks and
for Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, ironically. That's why I said I was like, I mean, if you're we didn't post that one either, but when we posted, just know that we recorded this a couple weeks back before Jared
Yeah.
went on his trip. So we predicted these moves. But anyway, yes, the Houston Rockets do get forward Kevin Durant. Not surprising. Sorry, super random breaking news, I guess. Chris Middleton did pick up his option. I mean, it's $33 million, so I'm not surprised he picked that up. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, the Houston Rockets do get Kevin Durant, and the Phoenix Suns did get Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, a 2025 first round pick, which is number 10 this year. The second round pick this year, two 2026 second round picks, a 2030 second round pick, and a 2032 second round pick. Boog, obviously, they did not get the first round picks that they were hoping for. They did get number 10 this year, so that's a great haul for them. Two things before we talk about the fit of Kevin Durant being in Houston. Are you surprised at all that the Phoenix Suns weren't able to get more from this trade? And the only reason I ask this is because we know Kevin Durant, he's a known commodity. We know what he can bring. We know we've said it a couple of different times that like he could be the final piece for a couple of teams that were looking for a final piece. However, he is on the last year of his contract. They were pretty vocal that they were going to be trading him anyway. This core was going to get blown up at some point. They didn't have a ton of leverage in any sort of trade. Like, does it surprise you that they ended up settling on a trade that was basically a first round pick and 6 second round picks instead of it being like 4 first round picks on top of the 2 players?
Not really. I think they're like once they kind of got shut down with a couple trades.
Yeah,
I think that soured a lot of things and the value of what they thought Kevin Durant was going for.
Yeah.
With teams that were there and like the Knicks, right? The Knicks they talked about the Knicks and how the Knicks were super heavily interested before he went there, and now they didn't want to talk at all. So in that regard,
what are your thoughts on the Miami Heat not pulling the trigger? Because I think I kind of posed it to you guys, but there was a report that came out once the trade was made official, similarly to like how the Chicago Bulls one came out, that the Miami Heat were unwilling to include Jaime Jaquez Jr. Why did I just forget his name? I was going to say Harrison Smith, but that's not his name. His name is
Haywood Highsmith.
Haywood Highsmith. Right, there, good. So Haywood Highsmith and Nikola Jovic, which seemingly, I mean, you're getting Kevin Durant. You don't have a ton of picks. Does seem a little odd that they were so clung on to those 3 guys and not including them in any deals, especially because the Suns would likely have had to eat some of the bad contracts like Duncan Robinson or Terry Rozier. So, like, does it surprise you that the Miami Heat didn't just pull the trigger, considering that it could have been like a Jaime Jaquez, maybe Jaime Jaquez, Nikola Jovic, Terry Rozier, and then like some pick, but not like anything crazy? Like, is that surprising that they didn't pull the trigger on that trade?
I'm a little surprised. Like I the 3 players, it's either Jaquez or Jovic that I would have wanted to keep and gave away Highsmith. But
of course.
I mean, but to be honest about it, like when you have Tyler Hero, Wiggins, and Bam that's still there, like why not bring him in?
It's so weird to me that was not on the table for them. Like,
and they're not even an apron team.
Yeah,
that's the crazy part too. They're not an apron team, so like you could do a lot more with everything after the fact.
Yeah,
with in that regard. So like it's very interesting that they didn't. Maybe it's like Kevin Durant's ego. They didn't want another like Jimmy Butler situation where they had Jimmy butted heads and like there was this and that and nobody's bigger than the team kind of thing. And if KD came in with that, they didn't want to deal with it. I mean, that could be one of the biggest possibilities, probabilities actually that of why they didn't sign it, in my opinion. But I mean, to me, it's very, when you posted it in our chat, I was like, that's very, for those players, like, dude, you pulled the trigger. For those figures, you pull the trigger. If
That's
you're
what I
giving
said.
up
I was like,
like one of your
even
other
if you're giving
three
away
stars,
Jaime, like I was just like, even if I'm giving up
yeah,
Jaime, like to me that just seems like such an odd thing. Like, yeah, like working out the numbers. I'm assuming it would have included their two big contracts because they just needed
yeah,
to, which is Terry
Duncan and
Rozier and
Terry.
Duncan Robinson. You include Jaime Jaquez Jr. because Jaime Jaquez is probably the highest ceiling guy, probably the one that they most likely wanted to try to get out of this trade.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the Miami Heat, I mean, I'm assuming because you don't have very many of them, like you could have given up pick 20 this year. You could have given up all of your second round picks, similarly to how the actual trade that went down
Yep.
happened. Maybe gave away another like lottery protected pick just to like intrigue them a little bit more, but
Yeah.
just so that you kind of protect yourself. Like to me, like you get Kevin Durant. Like, I mean, we've talked about it at length. Like, he's not exactly the full needle mover. Like, obviously, he can be a guy who definitely he's like the last piece to a team, especially when they're like kind of on the cusp. I don't think he's kind of the one you build around because we've kind of seen that happen already, and it
Yeah.
never seemingly works out for him. But
Mm-hmm.
like in that trade, it just makes, I mean, like you would have, then your starting lineup is just one of the best in the league.
Yep.
I mean, like, assuming it's like maybe you put Tyler Hero at the one, and then it's Haywood Highsmith, Andrew Wiggins, Kevin Durant, Bam Adebayo. You still got Kyle Anderson, Jovic, and Kelly Ware off the bench. Like,
yeah,
I don't even understand, bro. Like, and that to me seems like such an odd thing for them to have said no to specifically. Like, no, we're not including Haywood Highsmith or Jaime Jaquez. Like, what did you think the deal was going to include that was going to let you
you
keep
have to give
those
up
guys?
somebody, like
I
some
know.
kind
I
of
was like,
youth.
I don't even understand. Like, and apparently they were really unwilling to give up Kelly Ware. He was completely off the table. But then when it included any of those, I was like, so none of your young guys you're going to include? That just makes zero sense.
Yeah, you have to
And
include
Haywood
a young guy.
Highsmith, like,
Yeah, he's 28, bro. You could have got rid of him.
Nikola Jovic, like both of those guys, I'm like, I'm just not.
They were taking minimal minutes anyway, so
Like, yeah, to me, it's just like such a weird thing for them to do. Well, on the flip side of this, so now we have the Houston Rockets getting Kevin Durant. Obviously, that starting lineup is pretty star-studded. They now have Fred VanVleet, Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Sengun slated to start for this team. I mean, Boog, do you think that they're a top-tier contender in the Western Conference next year?
I mean, as long as they play the way they did at the end of the season, I 100% think so. I mean,
That's
Kevin Durant's that needle mover for them. They needed somebody to score that length, that little tweak of an offensive look that he gives. And we saw like what Thompson, Fred VanVleet looking like the Fred VanVleet of old a little bit. Sengun still doing Sengun things. They re-signed Steven Adams as well to help shore up that second unit.
Yep.
I mean, and we talked about the youngs, right? The Jabari Smiths, the Reed Shepherds, like the players, the Tari Easons, like those type of players that we're looking at. It's like, man, that it's nice to see
Tari Eason,
that they were able to keep
Whitmore. I mean, they're probably going to re-sign Jayshawn Tate. They got Reed Shepard, and then you throw in Steven Adams like,
into that as well.
That second unit is like, to me, that's like that's almost like if somehow they lose VanVleet, they lose Kevin Durant, like maybe they win a championship, they lose those guys. You have like all those guys just ready to step right in and be like, you know what I mean? Be basically your next like
gonna look like Pacers. The Pacers.
Yeah, it's exactly what I just said. Yeah, like see, like as I said, like it's just one of those teams where I'm like, man, they are loaded and ready to go next year. I mean, I said in the other version of this, I would like to keep like a Dylan Brooks just because I like his mentality when it comes to, but it made sense that he had to be included in this trade from both a financial standpoint and sort of like the
draw.
The star.
He needed the draw of the trade value, basically.
Yeah. And then looking on the flip side of this, so a lot of people are pointing to the fact that now the Phoenix Suns have like just this crazy dearth of shooting guards. They have Jalen Green, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Grayson Allen. There was one more in there I can't really recall, but then now they also have Dylan Brooks in that team. They have Nick Richards. It's a weird hodgepodge of players. They're also seemingly looking to move off of Bradley Beal, and there's rumors that they may actually end up swinging Jalen Green into another team
Yeah.
to recoup some value in that as well. First and foremost, the fit of we'll just stick with Dylan Brooks because there is those rumors that Jalen Green may get moved. The fit of Dylan Brooks with this team, and if Jalen Green does go somewhere, where do you see him going to?
Well, I like Dylan Brooks' fit. Can you imagine having to defend against Dylan Brooks and Grayson Allen?
It's funny. That's exactly I was thinking in my head. I was like, I mean, just put a lineup with Devin Booker.
They're gonna put one on each side, bro.
Grayson Allen, Dylan Brooks, and just like have them just fight everyone.
Yep. They're gonna have me on each side, and it's like, okay, when we switch, I got you. Don't worry, I'm gonna take this guy out. I'm gonna take this guy out.
They're gonna have so many technical fouls.
Oh yeah.
Just trade for Draymond already. Like make this a trifecta of just technical
fouls. Yeah. No, but yeah, I mean, for me, that's I think I love the fit for Dylan Brooks. I think everywhere he's been very prominent in what his role is, and he brings out the defensive dog out of other people as well. He showed the Grizzlies
how much they needed him. That's for sure.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the mindset that the Phoenix Suns also need as well. Moving on from the Kevin Durant and everybody, Jalen Green, man, that's a tough question because there's a lot of teams that you could possibly get off of, like take a lot of calls from to help with that. Okay, what happened?
No. You say yours because I think I just thought of one that I was just kind of like, what? I'd be actually very interested to see if this would work in a. And I will say though, we're gonna get into some ideas we had, and you'll hear them, but they'll be like kind of post all this. I mean, pre all of this happening, so it's gonna sound a little off. But I did just get sort of a interesting idea because I did not like the fit of what's his name together in Phoenix with Jalen Green. Like I didn't like Devin Booker and Jalen Green being together just because seemingly not like they're the same guy, but I just feel like Jalen Green is going to be trying to take shots that Devin Booker probably should be taking, especially because he already has that established like rapport and love with that team. So
I thought you were going to say like a PG or something.
No, that was. I mean, it's like I'm curious to see if this would even work. But I guess do you have any ideas for a team that you would send him to?
For me, I think a team that I mean, they already have people who take bad shots anyway. I think I would like, because of the youth, and I know they're like not a young team, but to have like a youth insurgents go into it would be somebody like the Clippers. Somebody actually, like the Clippers, really because I mean, right? James Harden's probably gonna opt out. You have Kawhi, Norman Powell is Norman Powell. I mean, you could probably swap him out of that if you wanted a more veteran type of player, or if you wanted bigs, you can try to wiggle for Zubac or whatever. But they still do have Nick Richards, right? So, I mean, in that regard, but there's no youth really when you look at the Clippers, like first 10 players. When you really think about it. So why not add Jalen Green, who showed that he can be a star, just in the bright lights, he needs more experience doing so, and who better to learn from than Kawhi Leonard?
That's actually a great point. Yeah.
So, I mean, like I could see him swinging there. Like I don't see him going to like making huge trades to a big contender just yet because of kind of how the playoffs went for him. So I don't know if the value is going to be that big, but I mean his upside. If we're talking about upside, like sometimes we do, like he's got a big upside on his because he's only 23 as well. So
yeah, it's funny because I was actually thinking about a trade, and then now I'm kind of like not really super sold on a trade. I was trying to send him to like a team like the New York Knicks, just because I feel like they needed offense when they were kind of struggling and they didn't have Jalen Brunson in there. I think he actually provides a little more offense than pretty much any of their guys.
Their secondary guys,
like all of their guys aren't really like offensive minded. Like Mikal Bridges kind of picked that up when he got to Brooklyn, but he still wasn't super super efficient like he was when he was in Brooklyn, and then OG Anunoby similarly, and then you kind of got. I was like, I think in their dream scenario, because obviously there's been like a heavy rumor, but I feel like they had a better chance of that when they had Kevin Durant, was like getting Karl Anthony Towns. I felt like
Yeah,
that
I was thinking that in the
that
beginning
would have
too.
been the move that they should have made. Um, you know what I mean? Like that to me would have been a fantastic trade for them if they had been able to move Kevin Durant, or better yet, if they were the third team in the trade and maybe they got Dylan Brooks and Jalen Green. But that would also be another weird one, because then they just have like this plethora of guards, but like no real center on their team.
I
So
mean, if the Jazz wanted to try go young, they could try for like because I
see,
mean
yeah,
they
that would
kind of
be a
need a
team
power
that, yeah,
forward,
hmm
right? So you would go for John Collins if anything,
yeah,
because
hmm
Laurie's salary is way too high. So you make a play for John Collins and like a Keontae George or something, like another backup point guard if you're not going to re-sign like the Tyus or those type of players.
yeah. It's funny because I'd be curious to see if there is anybody who is really interested in
And
trading
Jalen
for
Green.
him. Like I know there was like even a rumor that the Bulls were another team that were like possibly eyeing him, but I'm just like, even that like makes zero sense to me, because I mean, yeah, he's a little bit younger than Kobe White. He's shorter than Kobe White. Kind of plays similarly, but is a lot less efficient than Kobe White. Just seems like it'd be a kind of a dumb 1-for-1 type of trade. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, all that to say, I actually think the Clippers idea wouldn't be a bad idea. I think the fit of him in that team is actually pretty good. It's kind of interesting to see now. But yeah, for sure, the Houston Rockets, man, they're a top tier contender.
Yes,
I'd be
sir.
very interested to see where they go with that top 10 pick or the number 10 pick. Especially if they don't end up trading Jalen Green, and maybe they try to rock some lineup with like Devin Booker at the 1, Jalen Green at the 2, Dylan Brooks at the 3. They'll have Nick Richards, and then seemingly we'll have to just fill a forward spot. Um, in the top 10, I'm looking maybe like at a guy like Asan Newell, who is kind of like a good big forward, um, taller kid. I think he's 6'10", if I'm not mistaken. Yes. Oh, 6'11", 6'11", 19 years old. Um, has a lot of the skill sets that you would kind of covet at that size and that position. He's more athletic. He's not really. I know he's tall, but he's also more of a forward player
Mm-hmm.
than he is a center player. So,
Yeah.
like I think that'd be a great fit for them if they could bring in that guy. I also think it's going to be very interesting to see what they do with Bradley Beal this offseason. If Bradley Beal will ever accept being traded to somewhere, because it's going to take
Yeah.
him saying yes, which, like, to me, like the Clippers make a lot of sense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if they could find the money to, throw back towards the Suns, but again, I think it's gonna take the Suns just kind of biting the bullet and being like, okay, we'll take back two expiring bad contracts, maybe have to give up a second round pick in that trade,
Yeah.
and wipe their hands clean of Bradley Beal. Like to me, that's just the best way to do it. Like there's no way to like get him to agree unless you're sending him to a team that he's desiring to go to. And I feel like a Clippers situation, like if James Harden resign, you have Kawhi there. He seemingly steps in as your starting shooting guard there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he revitalizes his career a little bit there. Like I just think there's so many positives to him lining with a team like that. But
Yeah.
anyway, this was a long-winded conversation, so we're gonna move into the NBA Finals. Obviously, we haven't been here for the last couple of weeks to talk about the games. It's been a really, really fun series. I, for one, am just sick of the haters talking about how this finals wasn't a fun finals and nobody wanted this finals. Go suck a butt. You're just not a true NBA fan. Like, gosh, man. Like, this was one of the best finals we've gotten in such a long time, just because it was so competitive. It was down to the wire. Yes, there were a ton of mistakes. I will say that, like especially when you watch this last game, like gosh, the
Oh my
turnovers, the
gosh.
boneheaded dribbling and throwing it into like the middle of nothing. Sometimes I'm like, it's these moments where you start to see the true difference between like a veteran team and like these younger teams. I think it's ironic that both of these teams never really had to play a team. Well, no, I take that back. Indiana did end up playing the New York Knicks, who were similar, but I was like, at least from like a play style perspective, you never really had the sort of up and down turnover, like get out in transition teams that like hit shots and all this other stuff as much as when they finally faced each other. Like when they faced each other, it was just like seeing like carbon copies of each other. And you saw that go through the entire series. And, of course, in this one, I think we both really wanted the Pacers to win. They ultimately ended up losing this one because Tyrese Halliburton went down with that now confirmed Achilles injury in the first quarter, which really, really sucked just because he looked like he was about to have an amazing game. On top of that, you just wanted to see the Pacers be able to compete without something like this happening, and there sort of being this ominous cloud hanging over this win for the Thunder. But anyway, Boog, we haven't been able to talk about it. What were your thoughts on this entire series? Your thoughts on this sort of, the way that everything ended and then the Thunder themselves winning the championship? Do you think that there's any chance that they become sort of the first in a very long time to go back to back?
I mean, that's tough, especially with that Kevin Durant trade. No, but
it seems like that happens every year, though. It's like every year somebody wins, somebody else adds some big name, and then it's like, well, there goes the back-to-back championship stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's the worst part about it sometimes because, like, yes, the Kevin Durant trade dropped, but there's still another trade that could possibly happen that everybody's waiting for it to drop too. Depends on where he goes as well. But talking about the NBA Finals, this team, this Finals was a whole lot of fun. Look at how many come from behind victories. We had the buzzer beater. We had the huge deficits. We had the youth grit of not knowing when to quit. And even if you look at Game 7, and I know I'm going to just skip right to it. Tyrese went down. Thunder should have capitalized and put this game out of reach.
They couldn't.
Indiana just kept
fighting. Mistake after mistake, that team, bro.
And they forced them. And Pascal Siakam, they even said it in as we watch it because I got to watch it on the plane. They were saying like he's never vocal, but he felt like that was his time where he needed to step up and say something, use his experience, use his vocality and his leadership. And he did. I mean, look at what he did through that whole first half. Kept them in it, kept reminding them that we're not out, we're here. And what did they do? They go into halftime with a lead, which nobody expected. Nobody expected once Tyrese went down. Because, I mean, man, if Tyrese went down in the fourth quarter or the ending of the third or somewhere in the second half, I think the Pacers win this game.
They 100% would have won it.
Just because, like, they take the shock factor, but then it's like, okay, we've been here before. We know how to play without him. Like, we know now we know who we're playing for.
They looked like the veteran team in this matchup for sure.
And that was the beauty of it for me. Turnover basketball. You're going to expect it from youth teams. You're going to expect it from teams that's never been to the NBA Finals. You're going to expect it from teams that were looking for their first NBA Final championship. And, yeah, I mean, it's everything you could have asked for. Names that you didn't expect to be in this stepped up. Jalen Williams. Basically, I was just almost said Jalen Green because we were just talking about Jalen Green. Jalen Williams.
I was thinking the same thing too when you said it.
I was like, Williams, Green. I was like, Williams. Yeah. Jalen Williams, 40-point game. Then he disappears. And then Game 7, then he starts to find his groove in the second half. Chet Holmgren, nowhere to be found on offense. But defensively, 5 blocks in Game 7. Like, that's a stat to be talked about. And then
he was a deterrent at the rim. So
I mean, from the beginning of the game. For like the first, after they scored the first one, the second one he gets a block. I'm like, okay, this is going to be tough. And then you got to talk about the unsung heroes on the Pacers side. Like, yes, Tyrese did Tyrese things, but Pascal did those things. But TJ McConnell, I mean, that's a big name. Benedict Mathurin went off for 27 one game. Like
he quite literally carried in this last one too, as far as the offense. Like the Pacers couldn't get anything going. I mean, I loved seeing, especially because he sort of was the guy that got pushed off to the side a little bit this year, especially with like the Nemhards and the Naismiths kind of coming out into their own and being sort of the perfect connector pieces for Tyrese Halliburton. But he stepped up in this game big when they needed some scoring. They couldn't get any, like there was a couple of possessions back and forth whether it was Chet Holmgren blocking TJ McConnell or them just not being able to move the ball well. I love seeing Benedict Mathurin come into his own in this final game, Game 7. He was just getting to the basket. It was really, really cool to see in the finals.
No, I 100% agree. And then the biggest thing for me, like when you truly think about it, like yes, SGA was the MVP, but you gotta watch what Nembhard did on defense.
Yep.
Like just the way he continued, and honestly, TJ McConnell stepped into that same thing. Like they made his life so difficult that honestly, for SGA to get the MVP, he deserved it because of what he had to work through. Like at the end of the day, he had to find other venues. Like he had 12 assists. He had to find other ways to do that. He had to find other ways to score, whether it couldn't be off the dribble as much anymore. I mean, as much as he was like slicing and dicing through their defense, which was nice to see. But I mean, this Pacers team, you got to tip your hat to them for fighting for 3.5 quarters without your leader.
Yeah.
I mean, without your guy. And the best thing for me, as I got to watch like the post game stuff and things, it really shows you what type of person Tyrese Halliburton is. To walk out to halfway through the tunnel to meet his team, to congratulate them, to share the pain because he wanted to be out there with him, to console the players that needed the consoling. Like it really shows like that he was the heart of their team, and that's why they were in it in the first half. It was just sad to see it go out like that, but I think at the end of the day, he really knew what he was risking.
Agree.
Going into it, and he wasn't going to let it stop him from hopefully bringing home that first championship. But this series, man, it was a lot of fun to watch.
Action packed, just everything. The drama.
And then your boy, got to talk about your boy, Alex Caruso.
Oh yeah,
gotta talk. I mean, one time I'm not gonna miss out on anybody. Alex Caruso starts the game with 2 big 3-pointers.
Yep.
A defensive pest, like just the presence of that guy and the leadership, the energy, the spark, like whatever you want to say about him, like he truly kept them in this
especially
series.
After what I consider to be one of his worst games, where I think it was the last
Game 6.
Yeah, it was the last one where TJ McConnell like stole the ball from him like a couple times. Especially there was that one critical one where he made like just a terrible pass inbounding, and TJ McConnell just caught up and receiver hands it and then just laid it back in. I was like, bro, that catch by TJ McConnell. I was like, he literally just like scoop. I'm like, ooh, okay, TJ. I was like, especially after a game where he had a tough time, it was definitely nice to see him bounce back.
Yeah.
Unironically, I was gonna say, ironically, I feel like I am a little opposite of the take of the SGA though. I feel like personally, it shouldn't have been him as the MVP. There were some moments where he just disappeared in big moments, like
in the second quarter.
And specifically in this game, the last one. Like when they needed him to get a bucket, or he was just throwing up errant shots and like just not getting to the spots, or he get to the spot. And there's like times where I'm like, don't get me wrong, TJ McConnell is a dog, but you're also bigger than TJ McConnell.
That is
true. And you also get up on your shot. So it's weird to me that there was a couple of times he would get to his spot. He had maybe like, and you know, like they always talk about with like the NFL, right? If you have a step, you're wide open. Like he'd have a step on TJ McConnell, go up for his jump shot, and then he would just throw out into a pass. And I was just like, what are you doing? TJ McConnell is shorter than you. Like, I get it. He's in your face, but he's also a lot smaller. So it's like, I don't know. To me, that was one of those things where I don't know if it's because he knew that TJ McConnell wasn't going to fall for the fouling stuff, or if he just was just panicking. But there are moments like that where I was just like, and that to me was why I was thinking in my head, like, I found him very annoying throughout this playoff series. I also got kind of just like super anti him during the series, but Jalen Williams, like, like for all intents and purposes, he had a little bit of that Dylan Brooks in him during this playoff series. But I also was like, to me, he stepped up in a lot of the big moments. He hit the big shots when they needed to be hit. Chet Holmgren had the defensive side. It was just one of those things where I felt like those two guys maybe deserved a little recognition. And I'm not saying that SGA didn't deserve the MVP.
Mhm.
And a lot of people are putting him in like the elite company because he won like the scoring title, the finals MVP, the regular season MVP. And that put him inside of that like elite group of like, I think it's only Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Kareem Abdul, and maybe just those three, I think.
Yeah, I
Tim
think he was
Duncan might have
like,
been in there,
or maybe
but
Timmy. Yeah,
but it was just one of those things where I was just like, I don't know, like the MVP wasn't really deserved. The Finals MVP was questionable at best. It just was one of those. I'm like, I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he's still a great player. I just think
yeah.
that the amount that's being heaved onto him, as far as like being like this just best player in the league stuff, is like to me just such a crazy narrative. I'm like, okay, calm down. Like this team was pretty stacked. You know what I mean? Like it was a lot of things
There was
that
a lot
kind
of
of worked
people
in his
just saying
favor.
that it was like it was over. Like the Thunder were just
Yeah.
going to take it to the Pacers.
And
Like,
that's the thing too, is like they went to a game 7 with this team that was seemingly supposed to be the team that they could just run all over. But I mean, you said it already. If Tyrese was in this game, they do not win this game. I think
no,
Indiana carrying all this momentum, the way Tyrese was hitting in the very beginning, I think they were up like 16-6 or something in that time when Tyrese went down or something like that. But irregardless, it was one of those things where I'm just like, they had all the momentum. Tyrese to me would have been the difference maker. I think they would have closed this out, and Indiana would have been just the storybook ending championship winners this year. So, man, just a crazy, just this was such a fun finals to watch. I'm kind of bummed now that the NBA season is over because honestly, I was getting super into it, and it's
Yeah.
just like now it's over. Like now we're back to just hoping that teams get players and players get traded and all this other sort of stuff. So, I guess to close things out, first and foremost, your thoughts on the Indiana Pacers, and then obviously we'll talk about what they can do this offseason because we have. Actually, yeah, we still have those two episodes
Those
to
two
record
episodes
with
to
the
do.
Thunder and the Pacers to record. But your thoughts on both of those teams?
I mean, Pacers. I think SGA said it perfectly in his conference. Like, I mean, his press conference is like, you feel bad for Hallie going down at that point. Super talented player, going to definitely be a leader, but they're going to be good for the next 3 to 5 years. Like for as long as those contracts are going to be.
And he had by far the best playoff run of anybody in the playoffs.
He had the craziest playoff run. Like they said, every series he went in.
Siakam got it, but like got that Eastern Conference MVP vote.
Well, that's okay. Yeah. We don't know. You don't know how SGA got it either, so it's fine. We're even.
Was it Jalen?
No. I mean, Jalen. No, they got it. SGA got it. SGA got it. But
okay.
I mean, like, honestly, like you said, Jalen Williams had a hell of a series, and so did Caruso, so did Chet. I mean, even though Chet wasn't offensive, he was super defensive for them. Like that could have went anywhere.
Deterring, like just him being there and being like the guy that like they couldn't go in against. Like, man, Chet was.
Yep.
I mean, I did not expect that Chet Holmgren would be like this defensive, deterrent in the NBA, considering his size, like from a, muscle standpoint.
From a build.
Yeah. But I mean, your boy is doing some things, bro. Don't let that guy gain any muscle. I was like, or it's over.
Yeah, no, for real though.
Yeah.
No, but for me with the Pacers, I think everybody that they had that played this game really showed their value through everything. Yeah. This is my hard part moving forward. I know he's been there for forever. What is it, 10 years now? But the way Miles Turner kind of played for me in this finals, I wasn't even in games. Actually, I'd say more game 7 than anything else. I feel like they need to go in a different directions of Miles Turner.
Well, they definitely sat him for a lot of the game because
they sat him for a lot of game too because like he couldn't buy a shot to save his life, and then when they finally put him in, like he would go to the basket and instead of like getting there, he'd get fouled and then he'd miss his free throws. Like that was the big. Okay, that's another thing that killed me. I was like, dude, they missed so many free throws in such good moments that would have gave them momentums to carry in the quarters through the game, and that was another thing that kind of killed me. But
The
Yeah, I think
rebounding
moving
is what
forward.
killed me for them. I was just like, it
Oh
was so.
my
I mean,
gosh.
watching the game, I was
They had
having
the
such a
bigs.
tough.
They had when they outsized them too, and they couldn't
Yeah.
grab a board. And then when they did grab a board, they get it stolen. And I was just like, I'm on the plane, sitting there watching it on my phone. I'm ready to throw my phone. I'm like, bruh.
Like Casey Wallace, like was getting rebounds, and I was like, "You're letting
Yeah.
Casey Wallace get rebounds? Come on!"
Okay, so
Indiana.
what do you think about the Casey Wallace hold right in front of the referee?
Ah,
TJ
yeah.
McConnell literally showing him, like, he puts his hand in his face, and he's like, he's holding me, and
Yep.
then he loses the ball.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, just
I
saying,
know.
like,
And TJ McConnell, man, I mean,
they got to resign that guy, man.
I like
to
if
a
you
big
don't resign
contract.
him, like that boy
Like, give
deserves
him an
to be
extension.
starting somewhere.
Give him an
'Cause
extension for 4
in
more.
my
Like, yeah, he's
opinion,
on 4 years on his
it's-
contract. Give him more
It's
money.
annoying because people are like they probably tout him as like I'm like he been like this. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
76ers TJ McConnell was a dog. Like
yeah.
he's one of those guys. I'm like, it's so crazy to me that this guy is not starting somewhere because he is like the exact point guard that you want for your team. Defends, hard-nosed defender, makes the right pass, can shoot the three, like does all the little
Can get
things.
to the
like,
basket too. You seen that movie put on
out
Chet,
rebounded
bruh?
Chet and Miles Turner in
Yeah.
the last game. Like it's wild to me that we cannot find a team for TJ McConnell to be starting on. But given he's on this team, I'm glad he's here. I hope he runs it back and they kind of just continue to grow with this team. But
Yeah, for me, that's the one move that I would look for. The Miles Turner
Just
replacement.
wild stuff, bro.
Somebody who can stretch the floor, but just as athletic, and because that's why they used Obi a lot, right? Obi
Yeah.
and Pascal, because they kind of did that for them. But I mean, going forward, I mean, even if they do re-sign him, maybe don't re-sign him to a huge contract. But I mean, he's there, and this depth that they have and this experience now that they lived through this playoff run. My biggest question: how does Hallie come back?
It is an Achilles, yeah.
It's an Achilles. It usually takes it's not just like it takes a while to get back into it, like 100%, like fully, but it's also a mental block for you as well.
Yep.
When it comes down to it. And so that's the other part for me that worries me when it comes to that.
I've had like ankle stuff before, and it's never really deterred me at all.
Mm-hmm.
This calf injury that I just had, like I received like 3 weeks ago. Oh, I didn't even know if I even told you that.
It was
but
volleyball.
yeah, I was just like, so like the calf injury that I got, and then like yesterday or Friday last week, kind of like sort of
tweaked it
for sure because I tried to jump again. To me, it's one of those things where I'm just like, man, it's wild how mentally I am continuously thinking about it. And even when I feel like I don't have to limp on it, I limp on it. And I'm just like, man, I didn't think a calf injury would be this kind of nuts to me. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't even imagine if it had been my Achilles, how that would have felt and how I would mentally be like not there. Because even now, I'm worried that like if I try to push off of it or try to jump off of it or try to step onto a ladder or whatever it might be, like now I'm constantly thinking about it just popping again and then me having that sensation all throughout the back of my leg. So
yeah, there's a lot of people I know that when they first came back from it, it was like in the back of their mind, like, oh, do I want to go for this ball? Do I want to do this? Like, is this going to happen? Like, yeah. So I mean, he's a dog. Like we've seen what he's done and everything.
Him and I had the exact same. His initial analysis, exact same injury. Like, and I just said, I was like, the fact that he was able to play on it to me is like mind blowing. But I was also kind of like, well, then again, they're gonna pay millions of dollars. I'm sure they got like cryo chambers and freaking.
He's got everything. He's got everything down. Like,
I'm just like, I'm sure they got everything.
And LeBron can spend $1 million a year. Like, they got money for it, bro.
It's like I gotta imagine the technology for an NBA player is much better than me just icing my leg when I get home. Like, I was like. As I said, I was like, I mean, given I, was able to walk on it, but I was just like, him playing on it is pretty nuts. But and then now it's a torn Achilles, so that maybe even more like, okay, I'm not gonna walk around on mine anymore. Like, I was like, because if I tear my Achilles, geez, I'm just done with any sports thing after this. Like, it's just gonna be like that uncle with the huge arms, but no more legs.
No way, he got the money. I mean, he's making 40 mil a year. Like,
jeez,
he's good. He's good to go.
He's good. He's set for life.
And I'm pretty sure his teammates would chip in just so he could play.
You know what?
Like,
since we got time and since I have you here and it's been a minute since we got to talk about this, I'm gonna close this out with one final controversial topic.
Oh gosh, here we go.
You know what I'm talking about, aren't you? You do know what I'm about to say right now.
Yeah,
What is your thoughts on the sort of
Alex Caruso? Yeah.
what are your thoughts on the media conversation that's been had regarding LeBron James? LeBron James's comments on his podcast with Steve Nash, talking about ring culture and why it's not important, and sort of, I don't know. Have you gotten a chance to actually listen to the clip?
I did. I mean, it's all over Instagram and everything else, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, it's not super hard to figure that part out.
Yeah,
to
I
be
mean,
honest.
if you're not keeping up with the NBA stuff, if you're not keeping up with this conversation in general, the short of it was LeBron James basically talked about how the media likes to put this sort of blight on players' careers because of their inability to win a championship. He related it to the idea of guys like Charles Barkley, of Steve Nash, and I forgot who the third player he listed in that conversation was, but as them not being, maybe it was
Karl
Patrick
Malone?
Ewing or
Was it Carl? Patrick?
no, I don't think it was Carl. It might have been, I forgot who the last one was, but basically saying that, like, are those guys, like, people don't think they're great because they didn't win championships or whatever, you know, the idea, and he thinks the media is kind of blowing out of proportion the idea of the ring culture. And then, of course, to add to that, you know, they have the whole thing between him and Stephen A, and then Stephen A replies and has sort of this, you know, long explanation of like why the context of the ring culture thing matters. And then there are guys like Colin Coward who are throwing back to his comments regarding the not one, not two, not three, not four thing. And then on top of that, the fact that he did go to Miami. And then you have the T-Max and the Jay Williams of the world who are talking about how, like, oh, does that make me, this is coming from T-Mac, does that make me less of a great because I'm not a championship winning guy? Like, does that put a
Give
blight
me
on my
Shaq.
career?
I would have won six,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, that's
So
what he
like,
said, right?
Give me Shaq and I would have won and all this other stuff, like context matters and all these other things. I guess I'll get your initial reaction and what your thoughts are on sort of the whole thing. I have like a mixed take on it, but I was like, because just the way certain things are said, and
yeah.
Anyway,
I think I'm kind of with you, and I think I know what you're talking about when you talk about mixed takes. Like, there is a certain thing of the value of a ring and your championships and everything that you do, but I mean, at the end of the year, when you really think about it, you can only have one champion.
Yeah.
And to have that ring, it doesn't make you less of an amazing. How many Hall of Famers do we have that don't have rings?
Exactly.
They deserve not to be in the Hall of Fame because of what they did in their career. You know what I mean? Like,
just
for
Dream
me,
Team alone. You know what I mean? Like, just
like,
multiple on that team.
Exactly. So for me, it's like, if you're thinking about, like, there's no rings, so you're not a great player. Like, that's kind of where I think, for me, views get skewed. Because, like, it's how you impacted the game, like what you've done for your team, like the organization that you played for all these years. And you played it for 20 years. Maybe you don't win one. Yeah. But at the same time, like, if in those 20 years, you're the all-time points leader for them, you're all-time minutes leader, you played X amount of games because you've never been injured. Like, players like that, players like Cal Ripken Jr. in the MLB, like, you go across all the sports of people who've never won a ring but are in the Hall of Fame or successful or highly noted names. I think for me, that's where it just gets skewed. And that's why, for me, I think I was reading an article about it because I wanted to just, like, see what other people were kind of saying. They're sometimes it's just like, rings don't mean as much. Yes, they mean a lot in the success of what you did and in your accolades, but they don't mean as much as, like, what you've done through your career. Like John Sally, who's won how many rings? Yeah. But what has he really done truly in his career? I don't want to take away from John Sally because, I mean, he's an NBA champion. So disrespectful. But at the same time, when you really think about it,
great actor. Come on,
oh yeah, dude, he's an amazing actor. I love him in shows. He's hilarious.
I forgot what was that Christmas movie I always remember him from, where he played an elf, and I was just like, that's the movie I always think of when I think of John Sally.
Was that the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger? No.
No, you're thinking of Jingle All the Way. But
Yeah.
he's like, don't be trying to quiz me on my Christmas movies.
Yeah, come on, dog. No,
Yeah.
wrong pod.
I want to say it's like a random Disney movie he was on. It was like a Disney Christmas movie, and he was one of the elves with some other guy who was in the NFL, and I forget his name. But anyway,
I mean, and okay, if we want to be super disrespectful about it, it's a player like James Jones who has rings.
yeah.
But like he didn't. I mean, he's a great 3-point shooter.
Jeez.
He's a great 3-point shooter, but like,
Hey, James Jones, if you want to jump on this pod, just know we are not hating on your career.
dude, I love you, man. You followed LeBron throughout his whole career, bro. That's your dog.
3-point champion right there.
I know. No, but I mean, he was a hell of a shooter. But I mean, there's players like I feel like they weren't as
Norris
pertinent.
Cole. I mean, there's always going to be
pertinent
somebody
to
on.
the championship run or the championship
Juan
that
Toscano
got
Anderson.
yeah that got rings and so like okay, so they're greater than Charles Barkley because of that because they have a ring, because they have 2 rings, because they have 3 rings. It's like, for me, that's where it kind of gets skewed, and that's where I really don't like it. But I get points of why like rings are important. You know, at the end of the day, like the champ, like when we look at Pat and Tom, right? You look at Brady and Mahomes. It's like, oh, he still got to catch Tom. Like Tom still got more to go. And
there's a lot that Pat got to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. But like everybody talks about rings for the first thing, like, oh yeah, they want to compare them. Yeah. Brady's still got more rings than you that he can put on one hand. Like, come on, man. Like, so I mean, for me, that's where it kind of gets skewed, just in that regard. And so I'm kind of torn both ways with it because I mean, we all work hard to get our rings, right? As a coach, like the CIF that I just lost, we wanted that ring, but we still lost. It doesn't make us any less of a coach. Even if we did have it, it doesn't make us any greater of a coach. It's just nice to have because that's literally what you fight for every year. Yeah. And so
that's why it's funny because that's where I was with this conversation was, I think the way that T-Mac then brought it up, I was like, okay, like, see, that's the difference in the conversation. So in context of what was said on the podcast, LeBron James kind of said it. He was referencing to himself, but then he threw in guys like Charles Barkley and Steve Nash, and he was like saying like, "Oh, are they not great because they didn't win?" And I was like, "That's so out of context from like what the media conversation is because we're not talking about that Charles Barkley isn't great. Charles Barkley is great because Charles Barkley is Charles Barkley. Steve Nash is great because Steve Nash is Steve Nash. It has nothing to do with their championships or whatever. They're Hall of Famers at this point in their career. So nobody has ever said that either of those guys wasn't great. My issue was like that he was pulling it into the conversation for himself when I feel like the entire, there is levels to every conversation.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
There's levels to why this conversation gets brought up with him specifically. The level is he's being thrown into the GOAT conversation. And if you're being thrown into the GOAT conversation, that's next level from great. Like there's the great, there's, there's good, there's Hall of Famer, there's greats, and then there's GOATs. And I was like, there's a difference. There's levels. So like Charles Barkley will always be a great. Steve Nash will always be great. Neither of those guys is in the top 10 all time. So it's like completely different conversation that people are having with LeBron James as opposed to like Charles Barkley or Steve Nash. So that's why I had issue with it. And then even when T-Mac talked about it, I was like, nobody's ever said, like I've said multiple times, T-Mac is one of the greatest players. And even all the NBA players know he's one of the greatest players to have ever played. If he never got hurt, if Grant Hill never got hurt with the Orlando Magic, we'd be talking about his championship run with
the what ifs.
Yeah. I was like, there's so much stuff with his career specifically. And I agree with him. Had he been with Shaq, maybe they do win 2, 3, 4, 5. Who knows how many with that team? Like
could have won a lot with that guy.
I think he had exactly the type of play and skill set and mindset to be like Kobe had he been in the right circumstance. And like even like the rumored one where like Tim Duncan almost went to play in the Orlando Magic with him. Like Tim Duncan and him paired together in Orlando. And Grant Hill was still off in there, sometimes injured, sometimes playing. Like they would have had just one of the craziest runs together. And it's like, I that's where I took issue with what LeBron specifically said was this is like, he can't rope those guys into the conversation because those are two different levels of guys you're talking about. Like when people are talking about his specific championships, he's He's always going to be a great, and he's going to be in the conversation for greatest of all time. But that's why I felt like he was like defending it. But I was just like, you can't throw those other guys in there just to appeal to those other guys. Like, that's not the same conversation we're having. Like, I think Steve Nash is one of the greatest point guards of all time. I just don't think he's put into the greatest players of all time conversation because of his shortcomings and all the stuff that he didn't get to do in his career. So that was probably the only issue I had. Honestly, like, it was one of those things where I was just like, come on, man. I was like, to say you wouldn't trade all of those records you have to have a 10-0 record right now is just crazy talk. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you could have 10-0, but you had no scoring record, no whatever assists, whatever, and you could have 10-0, I guarantee you would take 10-0 anytime, any day. Like, that's silly. That's a silly conversation to have. I was just like, come on, man. I was like, we all want championships. I want a championship. I wanted it so bad, I almost tore my damn thing again this last Friday. Anyway, that'll end this conversation for After the Buzzer. It's been a minute, so I just had to talk to my boy for a second and catch up a little bit. Boog, you have any last-minute thoughts on any of the things we talked about today?
I'm going to miss the NBA. Actually, but I can't wait. Like we're getting like little droplets of these trade rumors.
The NFL, because I was like, I know I'm getting excited for the NFL.
I was like, we're getting a little droplets of these trade rumors, so like that's like keeping it exciting. But I think like now that the season's done, of course, exactly. We're looking forward to the NFL. We're looking forward to our draft party. We're looking forward to a little of that. So be on the lookout for more pods to drop on that too, because we still got to talk about a bunch of things too.
We have a lot to catch up on because there's still much more to talk about.
And you'll still hear about the Pacers and the Thunder because we'll cover their future goals and like their team breakdown as well.
Probably closer to August, I think, because at this point we're only like 6 teams in, and there's a lot of teams to talk about.
So we got time. We're chilling.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Anyway, it has been a pleasure. It's been a joy from all of us here at Poi N Soy. Bang, bang.